Greetings from the right coast. This is Mad Shad. What we're going to talk about today. Fighting. Yes, fighting. To quote Sun Tzu, to win without fighting is best. And Sun Tzu was a brilliant general. His words of wisdom and teachings have been used in every conflict, every battle since his conception. Sun Tzu came from a family of professional generals. His whole fucking family. So a lot of his words were actually forefathers teaching him, and they wrote down stuff and passed it along. Such was the way in ancient China, turn of the century. So he understood that conflict and fighting were bad. Where physical conflict was like the last resort. A lot of his tactics involved more maneuver, using the land, using deception, things of that nature, so that he could get the ultimate result. And we learned this in the Marine Corps. It's not about destroying the enemy. It's about destroying the will of the enemy. In our last conflicts, I wasn't there, but I know conflict. In Afghanistan, Iraq, places like that, we were dealing with a ideological foe who had nothing. They had an AK-47 that's been passed down for 2-3 generations. They had like a box of rounds that they kept for 60 years. You know, that's what they had. And their little nightshirt and some sandals. And they fought. And that was their ideology, their religious ideology, whatever to claim fame, Aloha snack bar or whatever. It was a very difficult foe. And we had superior numbers, training, equipment, technology, and we're still going through conflict over there to this day. The idea just doesn't die. It makes a fanatic foe. We also face this in Vietnam, where the people just, the communists were just entrenched, literally dug in the tunnels of Cu Chi, and they were literally taking from the U.S. and Allied forces, taking their trash and making things out of it to hurt and destroy and maim and kill. And it was a harassing war. It was a harassing conflict. And once again, the great military might that the United States and allies were, took a long, long time to come to some type of resolution. We learned that open conflict, head-to-head battle, as heroic and romantic as it sounds and seems, is a destructive thing. Once again, Sun Tzu said it is better to keep a nation intact than to destroy it. trying to find that conflict resolution in our lives can be difficult. It's a lot easier now because we live in a very civilized world with civilized people and civilized laws and things of that nature. But it happens. It does happen. We let our emotions get the best of us. And we react. That's the idea. It's reaction, proaction. We all know what reaction is. Somebody slaps you in the face, you slap them back. Christianity, you get slapped, turn the other cheek. Whatever. We understand that if somebody comes and tries to attack you, you can do some shit and you know. And there's a wide variety of martial arts and combatives that deal with that, you know. But there's proactive. Proactive means, especially in conflict, is, for one, being aware that there is going to be conflict and how to deal with that accordingly. A lot of times just walking away, going out of the area. You see a bunch of dudes up the way and they're in your line of travel and they're all just talking, bullshitting, and you know, throwing up some gang sign, you know, yo motherfucker, shit, yeah motherfucker. And you know, they're playing with their guns and they're adjusting their gacks and clocking the grip and all that shit. And it's best to just go, I'm going to go this way. You know, because they're probably going to sit there and harass you or whatever. Or you can nut up and just walk right through. Untouched. You know, like, hey. They might challenge you and be like, nah, not today, son. I'm out. I'm going this way. You ain't stopping me. Yeah. So you can either, that's the whole idea of the whole gray man, is that you can blend in, be gray. A lot of that translates into military tactics as well. If I've got me a sizable force and I'm trudging through the wilderness, I'm all spread out, or I'm spread out in a line as to mask my true size and intent. I keep to the lowlands. I hide in the swamps, in the thicket, where nobody wants to go. And I look for the enemy, who is probably taking the main road, walking down the road, just diddy-bopping, going along, making all kinds of noise and throwing their trash everywhere, and yeah, being braggadocious and boisterous, and they never seen me hiding in the shadows of the woods until that moment of truth. So same thing applies in Gray Man. And you know what? It's the alphabet soups. They've been practicing this for decades. It's not COVID. It's smoking. I'm a smoker. I smoke cigarettes and anyway, who knows what's killing me. But to hide in plain sight in a neighborhood, in an area, if it's not an area that you've been in, you're gonna stick out like a sore thumb. Just saying. If you're not, you know, me, I'm a 6 foot tall white man with a beard. If I go walking down the neighborhood, and I walk into the hood with my tactical backpack on and 5.11 pants and boots and, you know, my tactical hat and tactical cool, all this and that, they're going to look at me like, what the fuck is this motherfucker doing? Stick out like a sore thumb. Now, if I was to just like, you know, even if I tried to go gray, even if I tried to throw on some rags, you know, get all smelly, let my hair kind of just get all nasty and kind of limp as I walk. Y'all seen that, huh? Yeah, with the homeless people, they limp when they walk, and then when they turn the corner, yeah, change your whole appearance, change your whole everything. They may or may not say something. They may or may, they're still gonna notice me, but they'll be like, yeah, what's this homeless guy doing here? You might be challenged. You might be approached. Because you're still sticking out like a sore thumb. They know everybody in the hood. Everybody knows everybody. So when you come walking, diddy-bopping along, they're going to notice you. Same thing with any area. Same thing in the woods. So, sometimes speed is of the essence. If I can pick a route through a neighborhood, if I have to go through a neighborhood, which, you know, in this day and age, you know, it's hard to avoid people. Even walking in the woods. I used to do these massively long walks in the woods, you know, with nothing but a gun and a compass and a bag of water, you know, and I still encountered people because I was walking on their land. Got shot at a few times. They'll shoot at you. I remember I was walking in the middle of a freaking, it was like a massive storm had blown through it, almost like an inland hurricane, and we downed trees and everything. And it's raining, and I've got all my waterproof gear on, and I'm just trudging it, you know, dun, 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 breaking brush. I jump a barbed wire fence, and I start seeing cows everywhere in the woods. I'm like, fuck, cows? You know, and they're in weird spots, and, you know, like up against a, you know, up against an embankment, looking at the water, and trees everywhere, you know, in the woods. And finally, I see somebody. It's some woman, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Hi, I'm sorry, I'm just passing through." She's like, "Yeah, there's a storm, and I'm trying to get all my cows back up in, you know, corralled so they can get safe." And I'm like, well, that would explain why I seen cows, you know, trying to climb trees and shit. Out of nowhere, just encountered her. I was on her land. Didn't know it. It's very hard to avoid people. It is. It can be done. It can be done. And avoidance is usually the best, you know, especially if you're going to go gray, especially in this tumultuous time where there's going to be conflict, it's best to just deny the battle. Really, just deny the battle. I told a story before in some of my earlier videos of this guy that wanted to fight me in a theater, and I told him, let's go outside in the back, and he walked out the door, and I let the doors close, and I went out the front door. He stayed in the back in the darkness. So I denied that battle. But always looking for, you know, interesting ways to end the battle, end the conflict. Distance is always going to be the best. distance. To locate and close with is what is needed for conflict, for you to destroy the enemy. That was our Marine. The infantry mission was to locate, close with, and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver to repel the enemy's assault by fire in close combat. So we knew that we had to locate, close with, get close, and destroy the enemy. Get in there, violence of action, boom, hit them hard, knock them down, you know, route the rest, and just keep going. And we also knew that if they were coming at us, that for them to be successful, they had to get close. That's to ultimately destroy us. You can sit far away and send it. We're masters at that shit, aren't we? You know, grid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. H.E. Wooly Pete, send it. Troops in the open. Target rich environment. In dealing with armed conflict in a urban setting, it's always going to be up close and personal. It's always best to get distance. But if somebody is far away shooting at you or whatever, you can take cover. Yeah, it's dangerous, and every stray bullet can kill you. But you have to realize that they're way over there, and you have all this distance, and you have cover, and you've got movement. So denying the battle. Trying to get back to this fighting thing. So it's to hurt others. You also will hurt yourself. I have all the scars to prove it. Most of us do. If we've ever been in any kind of conflict, we have the scars. That scar also goes up here. And here. A lot of conflicts hurt. And they hurt our relationships, and they entail numerous other things. A lot of the Viking sagas talk about. Now, the Viking sagas were mostly about, you know, warriors and Vikingr, you know, manly men who fought and did their thing and their conquest. It also talks about a lot of the Vikings we know were homesteaders. The ideal place was for a family of Norsemen to have a farm and to grow crops and to have chickens and hogs and pigs and cows, and you know, they were farmers, they were homesteaders, and they would just move into an area and go, this area is mine, y'all stay out, please, and we're gonna do this. So there's a lot of stories of and they had this idea of retribution, and yes, they were violent, and there was a whole idea about if you were accused of not being manly, then you were subject to attack, literally attack, because nobody didn't like that shit. I mean, you could still be arger or whatever, or rager, whatever it's called, you know, less than manly, cowardice and such. And there's so many stories on that. There's one story I remember. There was a guy lived on a farm, and he was like the slacker. He was the slacker. He stayed indoors. I mean, it literally says, I mean, this guy stayed indoors. And the whole family was like, ugh. Ted. I'm going to call him Ted. Ted the slacker Viking over here. Or, no, he wasn't a Viking. The slacker Norseman over here. He doesn't want to go outside. He doesn't want to do chores, and I don't know. He sits in there and plays video games. We all know this, and this is very prevalent here. But lot of talk. Everybody started talking. Talking. Like, that guy over there, Ted over there, Ted the Norseman, he just ain't worth a shit. He sits in his house, he plays video games, he, does whatever, makes love to his waifu pillow, whatever. And they was just talking about him, like, and so when he would show his face, like, Father would make him go out and do stuff where he had to help, take crops to the market, to the village. He had to help. And be like, oh, okay. The whole family it's a big family event, and they go out there and they got their carts and everything. Everybody's needed, And there was some boys there, his age, and they were just talking shit. Like, you're a fucking douchebag. You're a lazy Viking. You're a schlep. You're a pussy. Oh, and Ted was like, whatever, I don't care. But Daddy, being very, very observant, he was like, no. You son are disgracing my good name. You need to stand up for yourself, and you need to squash that shit. And in that culture, if somebody if somebody talked bad about you, you grabbed something like that and went to town, went to work on them, and it was justified. So, yeah, it was a justified killing. It was a justified killing. If somebody slandered your name, and they were slandering his name and saying that he offered himself up to men and I don't want to go into all that, but they really got under his skin. And so right there in the middle of the village, while all these boys were just talking shit, it was like 2 or 3 of them, he grabbed a oar. And walked over to them, and they're like, you ain't gonna do shit. You ain't gonna, boom, and he just cracked skulls. Killed them, threw the oar on the ground, and walked away. Father was like, oh shit. My son! Everybody's cheering, and it was a justified killing. But in that society, you could also do a revenge killing. So it just propagated. So Ted the Viking, was like, well, fuck. I just killed these guys. He did it effortlessly, by the way. This is a big guy. Big fat slob of a man sitting in his house doing nothing. Kills 3 guys with an oar for talking shit about him. Because it was pushed on him. That's what he had to do. His family, everybody, this whole society was like, well, you got to prove yourself. And he did. Well, they left after that conflict resolution. They left and went back home. Well, word came that Father and existing brothers had put on their blue clothes, their killing clothes, and they were marching to their to the homestead, to Ted's family homestead, and they demanded retribution and revenge for the killing of their brothers. So Father said, well, Ted, you gotta go. Leave now or you're gonna die. These boys are not playing around. We know their reputation. They don't take no shit. They got swords. Swords was a big thing. If you had a sword, you were a status symbol. Most people carried axes and spears and bows and arrows and shields. Shields actually were the main thing. We'll go into that later. It's all about, boom. So yeah, redirection and whatnot, binding. But yeah, so Ted had to leave, and Ted left. Unbeknownst to everybody else, Ted was a master boat maker. He made boats really good. Nobody didn't know that, though. And so he got in a boat that he had made and hauled ass. And family gets there and they're in their killing clothes. Rabble, rabble, give us your Ted. We're going to kill him now. And father's like, he left. He's gone. He ran away. You do not get retribution today. Sorry. Well, the offended family looked and looked for years. Ted had ran off to another, like down the cove, down the coastline, and built a massive freaking fort out of wood on an island. He lived and worked on himself, and he was building ships, and people in that area were actually going, "Hey, we like your ships." One such instance, the King of Norway heard about him and said, "I like your ships. I want you to build me ships." Oh, okay. Ted built ships. The king was pleased, gave him a bunch of money. So Ted the slacker turns into Ted the exiled shipbuilder, favored by the king. Starts making ships in his fort. So the offending family found this out and goes to the same king that had bought the ships and goes, "Hey, we're good friends, but we have this issue. My name and reputation has been tarnished by Ted the shipbuilder, and we want to destroy him. Where is he?" And the king is at a conflict. He's like, "Well, he makes ships for me. But I understand that name and honor is everything, so yeah, he's over there." Sucks, but okay. His relationship with the offending family, which was a bigger family, bigger farm, with more sons and daughters than he could deal with, more heads of cattle, Ted was nothing compared to them. So a Chinese man just went running by. Look, I think he's jogging, working out. Maybe. Where you at? Where you at? You just parachute in? Anyway. So, the offending family goes to Ted's island. And they're faced with this massive fort, these walls. And they start trying to, destroy the walls. And get in there. And I don't know why it talks about this, but a hot molten lava came out of ports, out of the wall, and burned them. And he's like, "What?" Ted was smart, and he knew, okay, all right, hit that button, and boom, here comes some hot molten lead at you. Or hot scalding water or something, I don't know. So the family has to go back and tell the king, "Look, we couldn't take him. We couldn't get Ted. Ted has some kind of freaking super defense that we've never seen before." And the king is like, "Oh well, it's this and that and this and this is how you defeat him." Oh, okay. And so they go back. The offending family goes back, and Ted's not there. He had done cleared out and moved on somewhere else. He's like, "Fuck." And he just did not want to fight anyone anymore. He just didn't. And so the offending family were like, "Well, that's it. We're going to follow him to the ends of the earth. Let's go. Let's get in our ships and follow him." And they followed him. And they followed him. They followed him all the way to almost Iceland, where it was very, very cold. Very, very cold indeed. They thought he was going to Iceland because that's where normally people ran away to, was Iceland. But but Ted had stopped at the Jutlands, dismantled his ship, and hid on the Jutlands. It's an island. It's an island before Scandinavia, Jutlands, Iceland. So he hid there, and the whole family We're talking the whole family. It was a force to be reckoned with. Brothers and sisters and thralls. Thralls being slaves. They were also like, hey, let's go. You're now deputized, and we're gonna kill Ted. So they all swim towards Iceland, and they all die. The ship sinks, hits the rocks. The bodies are everywhere. Swords are everywhere. After a while, Ted was like, okay. So he goes back home. And his father was like, son, Ted, the lazy Viking, you've got a saga already. What the fuck? My laziest son is now an accomplished Viking and killer of men and shipbuilder. And favored by the king. The king heard about this and was like, wow, okay. You want to build ships for me? So Ted the slacker, Viking, turns into master shipbuilder. And he only had to kill 3 people. And he denied the battle of everything else. So, all right, I'm going to stop it here. This is just getting crazy. I'll sit here all freaking morning just ranting and raving. I know that can just be just kind of just grinding, if you will. So, this is Mad Shad signing off.